2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What does an interdependent sexual relationship look like?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. We have a couple of things. We have rebranded, kind of. We are the Therapy Brothers again. So we just really like that. So we've gone back to being the Therapy Brothers. So I don't know if that means anything to you in your life or whatever. You're still going to get the great content that we have. The callers, Tyler and I on the podcast. So I just wanted to let you know we are the Therapy Brothers, so you can refer to us as the Therapy Brothers. Today, speaking of Therapy Brothers, the brothers aren't here. Just I am here. It is summer. Tyler's down at family reunion, and hopefully he's having a great time. Well-needed rest, a break. He just went through putting on a wedding for his oldest daughter. So I want to say congratulations to Maddie and Carson. All the best to them. And they're going to make a great couple, and life's going to be good for them. So we're excited about them getting married. Tyler then went straight off to a family reunion. So he's left me here to hold down the fort like he did last time for me. So, but we have a really interesting topic today. I think an important topic to get into. And I'm hoping that this topic answers a lot of the questions that we've had come through for the show. We've had a lot of different questions, yet they have the same type of feel to them. And I'll explain this in a minute. So first off, I want to back up a little bit and just talk about attachment in a relationship, healthy attachment, and how, what does a healthy relationship look like? So if we break it down and simplify it, there's three types of relationships. There's a codependent relationship, there's an independent relationship, and then there's an interdependent relationship. So let's start with codependency. Think about it this way. Codependency is over attachment. Now, what that means is I depend upon you for my okayness. If you're sad, I get really, really sad. if you act out in some way, do something, I can't handle it because you are so important to my okayness that I can't stand on my own 2 feet. I am scared of rejection, abandonment. I don't want to be hurt. So I'm attached to your emotions. I'm attached to what you say. I'm attached to what you do, and need to make sure that you stay in line because I'm so scared that if you go out of that line, I'm going to crash and burn too because I'm codependent to you. Now, I know this word codependent is, it was a dirty word for a while for us. We couldn't use it because it was misrepresented in many ways. It was used as I thought it was a real weapon for partners of sex addicts. They would say, well, you're the codependent. And then they would actually blame the partner in many ways for the sex addiction, which was not okay. But because that happened, talking about codependency and talking about codependent relationships almost got a little bit difficult because people got so defensive to being a codependent. When in reality, codependency is a real thing. And I would say I see codependency as much from the side of the person struggling with the addiction as I do from the partner. What I mean by that is sex addicts are notoriously codependent with their partners because they're used to using other people for their okayness. And so it both sides of the equation. Usually if you're really codependent, it means you married somebody really codependent and you're matching each other's level of codependency in the relationship. Not all the time. But that happens. And what codependency shows is a lack of stability and strength from the codependent partner. I need you to lean on or else I will crumble. So I'm not rooted and grounded in my own strength with God, with myself. And so I'm dependent upon you. That's the codependent. Now, the independent is the other side of the pendulum there. The independent is oftentimes scared of attachment and not wanting to get abandoned and rejected again, or just not caring. An independent can be quite apathetic. And it's really frustrating to be in a relationship with an independent because they really, truly could care less. I'm fine. Things are fine. Oh, you're sad, lonely, scared, whatever. That's okay. I don't care. I'm good. I'm sitting over here on my own, not empathizing, not hearing, not connecting. I don't need you. I don't want you. I'm fine without you. What kind of relationship is that? So that's the independent. So on one end, you got the codependent. On the other end, you got the independent. Neither of these are healthy for relationships. Now, when we talk about sexuality in a relationship, I'm going to get into some things when we look at a codependent sexual relationship. I'm going to get into some things that are interesting to dissect, and I think a little bit triggering to talk about and to hear. And then I'm also going to talk about what real safety in a relationship looks like that might be different than what you're doing as a codependent partner to try to get safety. So my ultimate goal in this episode is to help you see a different way, a new way, and a new understanding. But it's going to take it might challenge you a little bit. It might shift your paradigm just a little bit. Because the goal is interdependency. And interdependency is both I care deeply about you and I can stand on my own 2 feet. I know you, I feel with you, I see you, but I also have my own truths. I don't need to become you. I don't need to always agree with you. I can actually be very honest with you about who I am and authentic and care about how that affects you and hold space for you in the relationship. So an interdependent, right in the middle, like a really healthy interdependent, is both authentic, empathetic, and honest. I said both. They're all those things, all three of those things, because they have the strength to be all of those things. And you can see how a person like that can absolutely create trust and safety in a relationship, because they can be known, they can be seen, they can be vulnerable, because they're authentic. So a lot of the questions that we get, that people are in relationships with sex addicts, and the person struggling with addiction is pushing limits and pushing lines that are probably not very conducive for a healthy relationship. And that's a problem. The sexual acting out is an issue. The biggest issue, though, is not the sexuality. It's actually the lack of knowing oneself and the lack of showing up honestly. The deceit and the lying and the manipulation is the biggest issue. Okay. The sexual acting out is a problem. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute. And hopefully you'll be able to see how if somebody starts showing up interdependent and honestly, they're going to actually have a less of a desire to go act out in these unhealthy, crazy ways. So I just want to get into some of the questions that we have here. So, and that, like I say, there's a common theme, and I don't want to address these specifically, but I want to address these questions more with principle, the principle of taking a step back and trying to be an interdependent partner. So it's interesting. Most of the questions that we get actually that they're actually from the partner usually, and they have to do with how to navigate or control their sex addict partner. So let's see here. Here's the first one. The first one says, I have a history of betrayal trauma in my past. I'm summarizing this. I have a history of betrayal trauma in my past. I'm in a new relationship. I want to be comfortable that he has sexual fantasy. He engages with listening to erotica at times outside of the relationship. I don't necessarily think it's all wrong, but I don't know if I feel comfortable with it, basically. Okay. So that was one question. Here's another one. This is an interesting one. After listening to your podcast on masturbation, my question is if my husband can schedule masturbation. I don't know when we said that, but apparently she thinks we said that. Then does that mean that I can schedule sex with another man on the same day and time? It's sexual intimacy outside of our union, and he's been doing it for 25 years while not having sex with me. Okay. You can hear the pain there, the hurt there. I'm hopefully gonna address these questions. So I want to show you the common theme. Can you please help me understand objectification and sexualizing versus sexual thoughts? My husband seems to sexualize and objectify people and then be okay with having those sexual thoughts because he is a sexual being. And it's perfectly normal to have sexual thoughts because he's a sexual being. So these are her words, not mine. But he seems to sexualize and objectify people a lot. Okay. So you can see kind of the common theme here and the fear here about being hurt by a partner who's acting out sexually. So let's back up a little bit and talk about interdependency. Interdependency says that I can stand on my own 2 feet, I can be honest, and I can care deeply about the other person. And this is true for both sides of the equation for both partners. If you're in an interdependent relationship, then you will show up as an authentic person who cares and is connected to your partner. Okay, I think I've said that enough. So sexuality, this is where I think we get ourselves in trouble. Is sexuality is an attribute that we have, just like our emotions and our emotional responses to things and to people, that is very unique. So my sexuality is very different than, say, Tyler's, and is very different than my wife's. My wife's. My sexuality is different than any other human being's. So if that's true, then my sexuality and who I am as a sexual being, it can't fit perfectly into a box. Okay, don't worry, you guys. I'm not justifying acting out sexually. Hang on here with me. Listen through this, okay? But my sexuality can't fit perfectly into a box. So if I'm given this box of what sexuality is, and it says things like, I can only be attracted to this type of person. I can only be attracted to this many people. I can only be attracted to these things or those things or whatever. Then I will hold that box and I can pretend like, yeah, I'm going to put my sexuality in there. But my sexuality won't fit in there. And I can try to force it and show my partner and show the world that this is exactly what it is. See, it's in that box and it'll be crawling out every which way. Okay. We all have our unique arousal templates. We all have our unique fantasies. We all have our uniqueness to our sexuality. So because that is the case, and this is where a lot of people take this when I start talking like this, is they say, oh, you're going to that place of get over it. Somebody needs to be who they are as a sexual being and go do whatever they want. Wrong. Nope. That's not what I'm saying. If I am in an interdependent relationship, then I care deeply about my partner, and what I choose and who I am will be influenced by me caring about my partner. Now, that doesn't mean that I make my decisions and my truths because they tell me what my truths are, but I make my decisions and my truths because I care deeply about them. So what that means is I might have this arousal template. I might have all of these things that I want to go do as a sexual being, okay? But I also choose to be married or in a committed relationship. And in that relationship, I'm connected to my partner and I care about them. And I know for them, fidelity and safety means certain things to them. Okay. So they might be coming and saying, Gal, can we keep the sexuality piece of who we are in this box in our relationship for our relationship? And I might come back with, yeah, that works for me. My unique sexuality and who I am can both fit in that box and meet your needs for safety at the same time. So that's awesome. And here's what I need for safety. Here's what I need for trust in our relationship. Can you fit it in this box for me? Okay. And if she can say, yeah, that's awesome. Now I make this sound easy when it's so easy to fit it in the box, right? But what if it's not? And this is what I think is very important for couples to do. And I know it's hard when there's a lot of shame there. There's a lot of denial. There's manipulation. It's impossible to have these important type of conversations where it's important for a couple to really come together in a loving, kind, listening, open, honest, and vulnerable way and say, let's look at fidelity. What is fidelity in our relationship? Because that's where we come together when it comes to our sexuality. I'm not going to come to my partner and say, you better be this, and this. But I might come to my partner and say, this is what I need to feel safe. This is who I am. And if my partner says, this is who I am and this is what I need, and then we can negotiate, compromise, empathize, and hear each other. But that conversation, that connection is important. And if I'm interdependent, then I'm going to show up as a very honest, authentic person. So let's use this example of listening to erotica or wanting to masturbate. Let's say this person wants to listen to erotica and doesn't feel guilt. It feels like it's within their truth and it's an important part of who they are as a sexual being. Okay. And their partner's saying, that makes me really uncomfortable. I don't know if I can accept that. So they come to the table and they say, what is fidelity for us when it comes to listening to erotica? And you could plug anything in here. You could say masturbation. You could say sleeping with other people. You could say whatever. Okay. They come to the table and they say, this is where I'm at. This is I. So let's say he comes to the table and he says, I really feel strongly that listening to that is okay. And she comes to the table and says, I really feel strongly that listening to that is not okay. And that doesn't make me feel safe. That really freaks me out. Okay. Step one, they're both coming to the table and being honest. That's awesome. Okay. If he knows that she doesn't feel comfortable with it and he shows up saying, I don't feel comfortable with it. I've done it in the past, but I'm never going to do it again because I absolutely think that's horrible. He is now selling out and becoming codependent. He is now caretaking for her. Okay. That's not going to create safety and trust in the relationship. It's better for him to actually step into the difficult truth than it is for him to caretake for her. Okay. So step one is know who you are and know what your truths are and show up authentically, not attacking, but authentically. Okay. So he's coming and saying, listening to that is really important for me and I want to do that. Okay. He's being honest. Right. And she's coming and saying, you listening to that outside of our sexual relationship freaks me out and causes a lot of stress and fear for me. Okay. Awesome. She needs to be honest too. Now, she could be codependent and smile and say, no, listen to it all you want. I'm perfectly fine with that. That would be caretaking for him. Or she could say, listen to it, fine, but I'm just going to separate myself, not care. Don't expect to have sex with me because I'm going to be independent over here. Okay. Interdependency would be her coming and saying, this is how I honestly feel. Okay. So now you can see there's a clash coming. He's saying one thing that is contradictory to her. Okay. Now this is really important. If they can communicate in a healthy way, then each person will say, let me know you better. I want to understand who you are. Tell me why this is so important for you. And tell me how you feel. What emotions are you having? Okay, so they'll empathize and understand and they'll feel seen and known by each other. Okay. The next thing is to consider what you can commit to. All right. So what part of this is your own work and what part of this is their work? And he might come and say, you know what, I can commit to not listening to erotica while I'm in a relationship with you. But he needs to choose into that and commit to that on his own, not for his partner. Because if he does it for her, that's a codependent caretaking act, and he'll have resentment toward her. But if he does it because he loves her and he cares about her safety and he's committed to creating that safety for her, good for him. Now, if he does it because he feels like she's so weak that she can't handle the truth, and so he's going to sacrifice this thing because she's not going to go do her own work because of her past trauma and her past fears and all those things, he's not helping her. He's not helping her. And it would be better for him to stay honest and clear about what he needs, but also really understand why that's so hard for her and so difficult if she has this past trauma. And hopefully she can see, wow, I have a man who's willing to be honest. I have a man who's willing to be patient and kind with my pain, but he's also going to stay honest. Now, I'm not saying whether he should listen to erotica or should masturbate or should do this or should do that or whatever. And I think as I think we can actually get in some trouble when we give that specific box to people. This is between the couple, and this is between the individual first and foremost, and then the couple working that out together. But it's important that the couple works that out together and works that fidelity out together. So this is difficult stuff, you guys, because it's really triggering and vulnerable to actually open up and talk and be honest about who you are as an emotional being, as a spiritual being, and as a sexual being. But when you can actually do this in these moments, when you're talking about these hard topics about who you are and how you feel, and you feel seen and understood by the other person, that's where you feel love. That's where you feel trust. You don't feel love, like actual love, when you're caretaking and just trying to show up like you should for the other person. Should you masturbate and if you're in a relationship? You need to work that out with God. And then you need to go work that out with your partner and how that's going to work in your relationship with your partner, whatever answer that you get there. But be very honest about the answers that you get, one way or the other. All right, so here's a couple pointers to show up as a interdependent sexual partner. Okay. You need to know what is healthy in terms of levels of disclosure. Okay. I'm not giving anyone permission to hide or to lie or to omit things. Okay. But there needs to be an understanding. It's healthy to have an understanding in a relationship that, hey, we are sexual beings and we have our sexuality inside of us and we're not pretending that it's not there. But because it's in there, it doesn't mean that every time I ever see an attractive person, I need to report that to you. It's just kind of known that that's probably going to happen. And so what is the line where reporting needs to happen? And I would say in a relationship, try to find that line where it crosses over into, now as your partner, I am unsafe. And for some people with a lot of trauma or a lot of fear there, it's like, I'm unsafe almost immediately. Like I had a client who literally, his wife asked him to look down every time they were in public because he can't look at the opposite sex ever. That's not healthy. Okay. So we got to look at, okay, why is she feeling so unsafe? What kind of work does she need to do there? And then that couple needs to do the work to say, okay, let's really look at the line of fidelity here. So here's the first pointer. Don't be afraid to own your arousal template with your partner. And I know that takes a lot of shame, resiliency to talk honestly and openly about who you are as a sexual being. But hiding who you are and trying to act like you're in that box is actually going to lead to it coming out in ways that you don't want. You're more likely to relapse. You're more likely to act out in more extreme ways if you're not able to talk about it and not able to process and be open about who you actually are. Okay. So try to be able to have a relationship where you're safe enough to talk about yourself as a sexual being. Secondly, make commitments that you are actually willing to keep. Like here's one for me and my wife. Me and my wife have a commitment not to sleep with other people while we're married. Okay. I am absolutely actually willing to keep that commitment. Okay. That's an easy one. Now you go down the line and you start looking at every little thing. Fantasy, masturbation, pornography. Within that relationship and in that connection, that as a couple, you look at those things and you say, where are we at with these things? And if certain lines get crossed with these things, how do we handle it? What's the healthy ways to actually deal with this? What if you're flirting with another person? Well, does flirting mean you have to disclose? You need to have those conversations. Like for me and my wife, if she was flirting with somebody else, I would want her to tell me that. Luckily, she's not really a flirt, so she's not out flirting with a bunch of people. But that would be a line for me that would be crossed that I would at least want to know about, and then we could talk through it and kind of see what's going on there, because I would feel a little bit unsafe if she was flirting with another guy. So now, honestly, if she thought another guy was attractive, I'm fine with that. I don't need her to come tell me that or report that to me or whatever. So these are just some personal examples for me where these are my lines and kind of my safety. But back to point number 2, make commitments that you are actually willing to keep. If your partner comes to you, here's one. I had a couple I was working with, and she told him that he can't have any more wet dreams. And he was a young guy. They weren't having sex much, and he was having a lot of wet dreams at the time. And he said, okay. And he actually had a wet dream, and it was this big issue, this big problem. Do you see how that's not working? Like, he needs to actually say, I can't commit to that. I'm sorry. That doesn't work for me. I don't have control over that. And so I apologize. Those are going to happen, but I want to know why that's so scary for you. And I want to talk to you about that. And I want to understand what's going on with you, but I can't make that commitment. Okay. So only make commitments that you can keep. And then the last one is to be in an interdependent sexual relationship is deal with your own fears and trauma. Don't need your partner to caretake for you. So what that means is, how much of this is them creating safety with me, and how much of this is me needing to do my own work so that I can be in a safe relationship with a sexual being, with a partner. Okay. So you come to those lines of fidelity. And like I said, like that woman who was saying, my husband has to look down in public everywhere we go. She is codependently turning to him to try to get him to fix it, to take care of the problem and caretake for her. When what she really needs to look at is like, whoa, why am I to this extreme? What are my fears? What are my traumas as to why I'm asking my partner to always look down in public? And what kind of work do I need to do so that I can face some of those fears, so that I can reprocess some of the trauma, so that I'm not looking to him to always fix this for me. Okay. So it's this interdependency is both like caring about your partner and creating safety for them, but it's also doing my own work so that I can show up in strength and be as healthy as I possibly can be, so that my partner can be really vulnerable and authentic with me. And so I'm dealing with my own stuff. It's not theirs to take on for me and fix for me. And I'm not, there are lines in the sand with sexuality and fidelity. Fidelity is a real thing. I'm not saying everybody should just be their own independent self with their sexuality. What I am saying, though, is take your sexuality and apply interdependency, where I can be seen, I can be connected to you, I can make my decisions according to our connection, not according to my codependent connection with you. And I can commit to those things, and I can keep things in this box for our relationship. And that box is so transparent and so clearly defined and so honest. And now that we have that together, now we can really create some safety in our relationship. Understanding that everybody has their own unique sexuality. And for that reason, we then are tasked with this work to do in our relationships to navigate this together. And navigating this together actually creates intimacy, which is what it's all about. Sexual intimacy is not just about physical gratification. Sexual intimacy is about deep vulnerability, honesty. You see me, and I can open up. As a human, I can open up and I can talk, and I can be heard, and I can be understood, and I can be seen. And all of these little things about who I am as a sexual being that I've beaten myself up with and shamed myself for so long, you hold space for. But you can hold space for that because you are so honestly boundaried and strong yourself that you can actually go there with me. It doesn't terrify you because you're strong enough on your own to be able to know that you can create safety for yourself. And so now we have that space together. That's sexual intimacy. Oh, and you might have some physical gratification as well. I hope this makes sense. It's kind of a paradox. So it's kind of hard to explain a little bit, but I hope as I'm walking through these things, you can see the difference. My frustration over the years is, and I've seen therapists do this, and I see couples do this, where they get into therapy or they start doing couples work, and they start laying out rules. They start laying out fear and control. This is what I need. Now, it's important to get to what you need. But if you skip over that intimacy and that understanding and that safety making with each other about who you are as a sexual being, you're setting up secrecy in a relationship. And you're living in force and control, versus when you know each other, you see each other, and you're honest, you set up empowerment, you set up support, and you set up connection. And so this is kind of a lot of times I think people get frustrated with me because they want me to jump into, you can do A, B, C, and D. And if you don't, you're bad and you're wrong. And I'm not saying cheating on your spouse is okay. But what I am saying is, if you want to do that, then go to your spouse transparently and honestly and talk about why that's important for you and why God's asking you to do that. And I'd have a hard time believing that that's the case, but if it is the case, then do it that way. Okay. All right, you guys. I hope this was helpful. Working toward an interdependent sexual relationship, it happens naturally when you work on yourself and you deal with your own traumas and your own fears, and you know who you are. Interdependency is all about understanding self, loving self, stepping into who you are, and allowing that, standing on your own 2 feet, being grounded. That creates a person who can really create a lot of love and connection in a relationship. Right? All right, you guys, if this was helpful, please share it. If you were triggered by this, then leave me a review. Let me know your thoughts. If this at least got you thinking a little bit, I hope that's the case. I hope this leads to some real conversations with your partners and trying to open up and talk more vulnerably with each other. But stay honest when you have those talks. Don't caretake. Also, don't go into